Welcome to Underlords Universe, and this is a place where we get together and discuss stuff that inspires us to be creative. This is my brother Brent, and we are part of something called the Underlords of the Overworld. It is a uh, recording project. We write and record music and stuff, but more on that later. If you're still with us later, what you might have stumbled across us for is this release here. We're going to do a little album discussion of the new Smith Kotzen record. And that's because Adrian Smith has been a big influence on us for God, as long as we can remember. So, Brent, this this album, which is a 2025 release, is
Yeah.
the second album by Smith Kotzen. So, anybody who has stumbled across our um, channel before knows that we like to do reviews of new releases, and this was one that I was really looking forward to this year. Um, take a quick look at it. It's in that nice digipack, right? And you got the guys right there. Adrian Smith,
Yeah.
of course, from Iron Maiden, and Smith, or excuse me, Richie Kotzen, who did a short stint in Poison, but also was in Mr. Big for a little bit, and Winery Dogs, and of course a really, really prolific solo uh, output. So, um, yeah, this is I really looking forward to this. I thought the first album was really good, but
Yeah.
you and I haven't talked about this, and one of the things that we like to do anytime new albums come out is for as long as I can remember, it's like, hey, what do you think of the new album? Well, you know, I've only listened to it once or twice, and we usually give, a few weeks, a month or so to let it sink in. And, we try to share our thoughts on this. And if you are a fan of Adrian Smith or Richie Kotzen, Smith Kotzen, and you have some thoughts of your own, please comment down below. We're just going to give our initial thoughts to this album after listening to it a few times. If you're new to the channel too, please like and subscribe. That stuff's all, fun. So, I don't
Yeah.
know, Brent, this is I like the packaging. I like the cover.
Oh, yeah. I love the cover.
It's
Yeah.
looks
Very
really
cool
good.
cover.
Yeah. Um, it's the third Smith Kotzen release, second full studio album. There's the first one, which came out in what, 2021? Is that right?
21 or 22. Yeah, you're right.
2021. So 2021 was the first album. Then there was a kind of a half live, half studio little
Pretty
bit,
good.
and
Pretty
then
good.
this here. So yeah. Now for me, this is all about Adrian Smith. I mean, nothing against Richie Kotzen. I've got the Winery Dog stuff. He's a great guitar player. Uh,
Yeah.
but to me, the draw here is Adrian Smith. And I'll be honest, I don't have his other stuff. In the 90s, he was in a band called Psycho Motel. You have both Psycho Motel albums, I know that.
Right.
Um, I unfortunately don't have them. Those are pretty expensive if you're able to find them. Nor do I have the what was it called? Primal Rock Rebellion.
Yeah, I did that. I never had an interest in buying that because I didn't like the vocal.
Yeah,
It was too screamy, death metal-y. Just for edges, it didn't work. I was never
yeah.
interested in that.
So I wasn't as big into, I didn't have an interest in that either. And I think that was just a one-off thing that he did. But I will say, just to kind of set the stage for this, for me, why obviously it's being a huge Iron Maiden fan, Adrian is the draw for me on this, but it's also because
Oh yeah.
his 1989 album Silver and Gold, under the name Adrian Smith and Project ASAP, I this is like a desert island album to me. I absolutely love this record. Now, the Smith Kotzen stuff, it's not as polished
Hmm.
as ASAP. It's a little bit more, blues rock. That's not to say it doesn't sound really good. It does.
Oh
But
yeah.
and actually I have a thought on that a little bit later, um but it's guitars, bass, drums. I mean, whereas the Silver and Gold album is more lush in terms of production qualities, flair with keyboards, etc. But
Yeah.
um, yeah. So your initial thoughts on the record?
My initial thoughts on the record were, um, like as you just mentioned, very well produced. Sounds great. Nice, big, thick production with the guitars kind of right in your face.
By the way, I do have
Uh,
a thought on that. So
okay.
it's going to be a little contrarian to what you're saying, but it's only in a slight sense. But go ahead, please, please.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned Richie, and both of us are. If this were a Richie Kotzen solo album, I wouldn't have it. I like Richie within the context of this project. I like Richie within the context of the Winery Dogs. Um, you and I have talked before about a little bit about his voice. His voice might be a bit of an acquired taste. Adrian's might be a little bit of an acquired taste. So Adrian's the big draw here for me as well. But I think we need to tip our hat to Richie because Richie plays a lot on this record. In addition to the guitar, I believe he's doing like most, if not all, of the drumming, a lot of the bass work. So he's doing a lot of heavy lifting on this record. I think the songs are really good. I've listened to the record in full probably 3 or 4 times,
Okay.
and we have it. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, yeah. We've never done or really extensively talked about their first full length album, and we may want to do that at some point to kind of see where they stack up against each other. We haven't done Silver and Gold either, which might be a future episode we want to do because we both love that record.
Hmm.
So I don't really know how this stacks up to the first one, but I will say that I think sonically it's very good. I think the songs have a nice, big, thick production. Um, not a muddy production, but borderline. It's a very, I don't want to say it's sludgy, but it's a little bit thick. I think the songs are very consistent. I think Muddy Water is probably my favorite track. I think the album opens with a really good song in Muddy Water. It's really consistent throughout, top to bottom. There's no song on the record I don't like. We're not going to probably get into our rating system as much on this episode. If you've seen what we do before, and we actually rate albums, we have a system where we assign a number of stars or points to a song, and we go through that process. But I will say that no song on this record gets anything below a 3, but nothing gets higher than a 4 for me. So it's very consistent throughout. I have 4 tracks that I gave 4-star ratings to. But I think Muddy Water is a phenomenal song, really good. And it ends, in my view, on a bit of a whimper. I think Beyond the Pale is a little, eh. It's a 3-star track for me, which for me means it's an okay song. It's not great. It's the longest song on the album. I think it drags a little bit. I think the guitar playing throughout the record, the solos are great. I think Adrian and Richie both sound good vocally on the record. I think their voices blend well together too, and I think they both have a little. Their voices are a little unconventional, if you will. And Adrian's singing style has really changed a little bit. If you listen to Silver and Gold, I think vocally he's evolved over the years. I think he's a much better singer now than he used to be, and I think Richie's a good singer. It's just a matter of whether you like his voice. But on the whole, I give the record a thumbs up. Um, we'll talk about high points. For me, the high points would be Muddy Water, Blindsided, Wraith, which I think is a really interesting, cool, dark song. Really interesting lyric too. And I'm not much of a lyric guy. I'm more of a melody guy. And I think Outlaw is a really cool song too. Those are my favorite songs on the record. And my least favorite would probably be Beyond the Pale. But on the whole, I think the record is really strong.
So we've got some similarities and just a few differences here.
Okay.
So I'll start with my thoughts on the sound of the album, the production of it. Um, and this is pretty much straight through with both albums as well as the studio stuff on that.
On the EP.
Yeah, well, there's the
Or
four. There's on this there's 4 studio tracks and then 5 live tracks. So all of the studio work, and it's all recorded at Richie's studio. And I have found that I've struggled with the sound a little bit in this regard. Um, you used the word muddy,
Hmm.
You said if I heard you right, you said not quite muddy, not quite sludgy, but there's just kind of something to it there. Um,
Yeah.
I actually wrote in my notes muddy,
Okay.
but here's the thing, and it's actually to a point that it's kind of annoying until I make one small adjustment, and that is to turn my treble up on my stereo. And when I do that, it opens everything up, and it sounds great. It's almost as if and I don't recall off the top of my head who mixed the album, but it's almost like it's recorded and mixed with by really bringing those highs the high frequencies down.
Hmm.
And I over the years I've kind of grown kind of sensitive to higher frequencies. So on my stereo, like my car stereo, for example, I have I have my treble like right in the middle. I mean,
Hmm.
it's at like five. It's it's like 12 o'clock basically. It's just like right there. But I had to really move once I went in and moved the treble quite a ways up. Then the whole album just really opened up for me. It brought a lot more clarity to the instruments. Without doing that, I feel that a lot of the vocals from both of them, but especially Richie, just kind of meld with the guitars almost.
Hmm.
Like it's like this kind of, like you said, sort of muddy nature to
Hmm.
it. But that to me, that's the fix. That fixes the whole thing. So I just know that if I'm going to pop this album on, crank the treble a little bit. There we go.
Okay.
Problem solved. Um, as far as the songs, I agree with you. To me, there's no bad song on this record. To me, there's no song that I'm like, okay, I'll skip that. If I put
Right.
this album on, I have found, and I've listened to it maybe 7 or 8 times,
Okay.
I have basically just let it roll. It's like, okay, good song. Next one, good song. Good next song, good song. That said, there's no song on this album that says to me, okay, that's a contender for Song of the Year. No song does that to me at this point. Now maybe they'll grow on me a little bit. Um,
Right.
I I did kind of go through and I did our rating system with it. I agree with you in the sense that no song scored higher than or lower than a three for me. They're all, but I
Hmm.
actually scored nothing higher than a 3.5. I mean, that's
Interesting.
to me it's just really consistent in terms of um, good songs. It's just, hey, it's an album of good rock songs. There you go. Um, I will say, uh, and this is not to, I mean, Richie's a really good singer. His voice, I prefer Adrian's voice
Hmm.
to Richie's, and I wish that Adrian was more prominent as like the lead vocalist, especially given the fact that Richie like you said, he played drums on a lot of these tracks. He did bass on a lot of these tracks. So it's kind of like, okay, dude, you're playing a lot of stuff on here.
Yeah.
Maybe Adrian could just do just a little bit more of the vocal. But if I'm being, yeah, I mean, that's just the fanboy in me,
Yeah.
So, um, I don't know if I agree that Adrian's a better singer nowadays. I think he's singing more cleanly, even though his ASAP album is like I said, a more of a lush production, more there's keyboards and stuff on like, but his vocal, like he's kind of got a gruff. He puts a lot more vocal fry on his voice back in '89 when that album came out. He's a lot more of a cleaner vocalist.
Yeah. I think he enunciates better now. I think that's
Oh
probably.
yeah, I think that's a really good. I think that's true. Now
Yeah.
that you say that, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Um, the guitar playing on this record is outstanding. I do think that it's an interesting pairing because Richie is kind of this, you know, he's in that kind of modern shredder kind of
Yeah.
school of the, and Adrian's more of the bluesy kind of player, and but
Yeah.
obviously really obvious really quite a great player in his own right, but they're definitely different kinds of lead players. So when you hear each of them break into a lead, you go, okay, that's Kotzen. Oh, that's Adrian.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like that in terms of the listening experience. As far as the standout tracks to me, I agree with you. Muddy Water. It's got an interesting groove to it. Um,
It's a great way to start the album. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll admit the first time I heard it, I thought that's weird. I don't know if I like that. But then it became one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
And I also agree with you about Wraith. Those are like I picked those are the two songs that I picked as like the top songs on the record. So we agree on that.
Yeah.
Um, it seems like overall we kind of have a pretty similar response to the record. Um, it's probably not going to can be a contender for album of the year for me. We're halfway through the year though. We'll see. I mean, one of these things about this stuff is that over time, it's like, well, what albums do I just keep kind of going back to? It's like, is there some kind of a gravitational pull about this record? Um, so we'll see. Maybe it'll rise through the ranks a little bit. Right now, I wouldn't say it's a contender for album of the year, but I do think it's a solid listen. No bad songs on it. If you're a little sensitive to high and low frequencies, maybe turn um, the treble up a little bit, and you know, other than that, I give it a solid like 3 to 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's kind of how what I would put it. So,
Yeah, I'd give it around a 3.5. So here's a question for you, since
yep,
you brought this up. So let's say Adrian sings every song.
yeah.
Now, do you think you'd like the album a little bit more if just we don't know what the songs would sound like. Adrian does all the lead vocals and Richie does some backup vocals. Other than that, the record's the same. Do you think you would just like the record more because you're a bigger fan of Adrian's voice and what he might bring to those songs, even though we don't know what they would sound like? I know it's a kind of a difficult question, but what do you think?
No, actually, it's not a difficult question for me. I think the answer would be yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because when Richie sings, especially when he sings up into his higher register,
Yeah.
it, it's again, not that it's not that I mean he's an excellent singer. Um, and I feel bad, kind of saying it, but, because a person's voice it's their voice. It's not like, I mean, can't
Right.
help it's the 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 tonal quality of his voice is what it is. I just prefer Adrian's. And so it's kind of there are sections of the record where, certain songs where it's like, oh, I kind of wish Adrian had sung that part. Oh, I wish Adrian had sung that part. There's really no parts of the album where I say, boy, I really wish Richie had sung that at that part.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, again, I like I said, I kind of feel bad, saying that because it's like, the guy clearly sings his heart out, when he puts,
He
everything
does.
into this stuff. You can hear that in the performances. So from a performance standpoint, he's great. But I just prefer Adrian's voice. So yeah, that's an easy question actually for me. Yeah. Do you
So,
think? Would you change? Would it change your opinion of it?
um, probably not. Probably
Okay.
not. No, I don't think it would. I mean, I kind of like that they trade, like, okay, with the Psycho Motel albums, and I know we're going back in time here quite a ways, 20, almost 30 years for these records, but anybody that hasn't heard them, if you can find them, especially Welcome to the World, the second one, is a phenomenal record. Um, and Adrian doesn't do any lead vocals on that. He has a singer,
Hmm.
and he's really good. Especially there's a different singer on the first one, but I think on Welcome to the World, that I like that vocalist a lot. And Adrian doesn't sing any of the songs, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So I think my answer would be no. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I think I would still like the album pretty much the same either way.
Hmm.
Um, and and to your comment earlier about their different approaches and styles in guitar playing, so not only you have the vocal combination, but you also have the intertwining of their approach to the guitar. Now, I think they sound good vocally together, and I think you do too. And you've also commented that they're you can hear this solo, it's Adrian because of his style, and you hear Richie's playing when he does the solo, that it's him playing. Um, so, what are your thoughts about how compatible they are, from a musical standpoint? Because
Well, yeah, I mean,
people people that might not be familiar with this and think, okay, I know Adrian from Iron Maiden. Well, you're not going to get anything like Iron Maiden on this record, and nor will you get anything from Iron Maiden on Silver and Gold or the Psycho Motel albums. His music outside of Iron Maiden is not
Well,
like
that's,
Iron Maiden at
I mean,
all. So
it's the whole point of doing something outside of Iron Maiden, right?
right,
Like,
right,
and Richie doesn't he doesn't write like Iron Maiden, and
no,
in Adrian's, he's a song guy, right? Which is
yeah,
kind of weird given the fact that in on a lot of recent Maiden albums, he's actually kind of joined Steve in writing a lot of kind of epic stuff
yeah,
as well. So I think he's really stretched as a writer in that respect. But I think at its core, he's a song guy, a melody guy, and a guy that likes a song with a hook. And these songs have
yes.
hooks. And I think that they complement each other well, it really, really well in that regard. Um,
And it's heavy.
they,
It's a
they,
heavy record. Would you agree that it's a heavy record? It's
depends on how you define heavy.
um
It just sounds like a hard rock record to me, like a blues rock record,
yeah, I think it's a
but
good heavy. Yeah, I think it's a good heavy hard rock blues album. That's how I would
yeah,
describe
but not like traditional blues. It's not. I mean, it's
it.
certainly
No,
not 12 bar blues. It's not Chicago blues. It's not
no,
the blues,
no.
but it's blues based. There's a lot of blues based stuff in going on in there. But there's also a lot. There's little twists and turns in the songs that make them unique, and that's because they're not. Neither of these guys I think are beholden to some sort of formula. But at the same time, the stuff is accessible and uh, and catchy. So it's good. My summation is probably not album of the year, but I have no regrets picking it up, and I have found myself going back and listening to it, with some regularity. It's a good record.
One last question for you, if
Yep.
I can. Um, the guitar tones on the record. How do you assess how the guitars, not only just the rhythm tracks, but the soloing? Um, what's your assessment on how the guitars come across on this record? Because you got two really really good guitar players. It's a
Mhm.
guitar album. So what do you think about the
Yeah.
actual, not the
Well,
performance,
I mean,
but the actual, the sonic quality of the guitars?
in a sense, it's nothing surprising, right? Because you know what these guys are capable of as
Right,
players and writers.
right.
So in that sense, it's kind of unremarkable because it's like, okay, yeah, Richie plays great solos. Oh, listen to that. That's a great solo from Adrian. But at the same time, even though it's unremarkable in that regard, it's only unremarkable because you know what, the quality that you're going into, It's like you
Yeah,
expect that. You have a certain high expectation in terms of the performance quality because you know what these guys can do. Now, at the same time, having said that, even even with Richie's solo, I think of the two of them, I think he's the one that's maybe more prone to being a little bit more of a flashy, you
oh
know,
yeah,
check
yeah.
out this lick kind of a guy. But I don't get the impression listening to this record, nothing on it gives me the impression of like they're just that they're doing any kind of guitar histrionics or pyrotechnics just for the sake of doing it. Everything seems to fit the songs.
That's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that because I completely agree. This is a guitar album, two really good guitar players, but
Right.
it's not like, hey, I'm going to try to outdo you.
No.
Now, there's none
It's
of that.
not a no, it's not a duel, it's not a shootout. They're both playing in service of the songs. So even though, yes, I agree with you, it's a guitar album, it's not a shredder album. It's a song album. Again, that's I just come back to my summation. It's solid. Not blowing me away. It's what I kind of expected. And it was
Yeah,
like, you know, as as long as there's no stinkers on it, and I don't
yeah.
think there is a stinker. If I had to say, if you said absolutely what's like maybe the weakest part of the record, I would say it's the chorus in Beyond the Pale, the last song.
Yeah, yeah, I
Now,
agree. I
having
agree.
said that, though, having said that, that chorus gets stuck in my head. In fact, I can hear it in my head right now. And also the soloing, I think, though, in Beyond the Pale is outstanding. So that is, even though that song has maybe a chorus that I'm not quite as fond of, the soloing in it, I think, elevates it back up. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna listen to this. I'm just not gonna skip it. I'll let the album start and roll to the
Yeah.
end.
And I think I agree with you. I don't skip it either, even though it's probably my least favorite song on the record. I think the album is sequenced well.
Yeah, gotta get used to it.
Um, and I would agree with you. My assessment would be solid, not spectacular. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah,
Um,
and as a listener, sometimes that's what I want. I sometimes I just want a good, solid album of songs, good songs. I don't want necessarily something that's gonna, make me reach for a Tylenol after I've
yeah,
listened to it just because it's so, wild and crazy. And, with all due respect to the Winery Dog stuff, sometimes the Winery Dog stuff does that to me. It's kind of like, wow, it's so noodly. You
it
can't,
can be.
you know,
Yeah.
that I'm kind of like, yeah, right. So yeah. Anyway, I mean that's all I got to say on this. Solid album. Check it out.
Uh,
You know?
yeah, I agree. Solid record. I agree with you. There's probably not a track on it that's a song of the year contender. I will say that I agree with you that we will most likely continue to listen to this record as the year progresses, and our opinion might change. And we sometimes will go back and
Yeah.
revisit things and reevaluate things. And I will go on record and say that if there's one song where that might change on this record, I'm probably going to say Muddy Water has a chance to maybe, possibly contend.
Okay.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
we'll see.
We'll
We'll see.
see. All right. Well, if you're a fan of Adrian Smith or Richie Kotzen, a fan of Smith Kotzen, and you've checked this album out, be curious to know what you think. Feel free to like and subscribe. We do different kinds of ranking videos. We kind of do it in a way that's a little bit different than other folks out there. Admittedly, maybe we're not as prolific as some other folks out there, but that's okay because we actually spend a lot more of our time and energy on other creative endeavors, such as our musical project, Underlords of the Overworld, which is something that's available on basically every streaming service, Bandcamp, etc. We did a couple songs with we got Derek Sherinian to do keyboards on a couple songs for us. We had Blaze Bailey do a song with us. So those were great, great fun things to do. And our bass player writes fiction as well. It's just we're just middle-aged guys just having fun,
Yeah.
trying to trying to fill the time with fun. So certainly not going to make a buck doing it. But if you're interested in supporting uh, independent artists, we can put links down below, like, subscribe, etc., yada yada. And that's about all I got for this one.
Yeah, let us know what you think about the record. If you have it, if you've heard it, if you like Adrian's work outside of Maiden, if you like Richie's work, kind of give us some feedback. We'd
Yep.
love to hear what you think.
On that note, toodles.
Later.